Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory and prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. I am Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts. I was almost through it. Aaron Campbell.
How's it going?
Ruben Bressler.
I was trying to work out exactly what you actually said. I was just gonna get a coo-ho-ho.
Having a coo-ho-ho. We all coo-ho-ho up in here. Yes, we are. Well, welcome.
As we start each week, these are my coo-ho-ho.
Ho-hos? Oh, my Lord. Well, look, we also get started with a trumpet blast, which you can get if you support us at our highest level on Patreon. But we are going to kick it off with the first pick and the giveaway. The giveaway is in the stream chat right now. You can !raffle to be in to get in there for a $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com. Thanks very much to CSI for the gift certificates. Now, that said, you can get 2 entries if you're a sub. So you should subscribe because you're awesome. All right. First pick is something we're not necessarily going to spend a lot of time on. For a whole variety of wonderful and mostly uncomfortable reasons. One Mr. Todd Stevens was a content producer for both Star City Games, made a podcast as well, and he has been let go from Star City Games and suspended for 3 years from the Star City Games Open Series for allegedly sexually harassing women. And that's what that sources tell Hipsters of the Coast, who reported this over the weekend. Multiple sources have confirmed that Stevens was fired and suspended after a group of women reported his behavior to Star City Games weeks ago. So if you had essentially noticed, I think he kind of quietly was, quietly left in the night there, and then all of a sudden there were some questions, and all of a sudden things started coming out. So that occurred, and then there was much to do about it. The Ponder podcast, of which, again, I think he was a part of this, correct?
Yeah, he was. With Melvin the Muppet and TJ Rogers.
Gotcha. Well, the Ponder podcast tweeted out on October 22nd, a couple days ago. Dear listeners, at this time, Todd is stepping away from the podcast. TJ and Melvin will be looking at how to continue the show going forward. Please bear with us as we go through some change, and your continued support is greatly appreciated. So that's what they said there. He was also a part of Team BCW, who, just short and sweet, last Friday, on October 22nd, a couple days ago, as of Friday, October 19th, Todd Stevens is no longer a representative of Team BCW. And SCG, after many questions, Pete Holfling, the owner, came out and said, I can confirm we're no longer contracting Todd Stevens to create content for our website, and they're unable to comment further on the matter at this time. And if you're like, why can't they comment further? You're like, literally, why would they do that? Why? It gives no one a positive anything for them to continue saying anything. Let's see here. So beyond that, that's a thing that has happened. There was a follow-up article, which was kind of odd, that Rich Stein wrote. Rich Stein is the guy who runs Hipsters of the Coast, and where he essentially explained to this person had emailed him saying that isn't it a bit dangerous to publish an article on, quote, something someone said, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yo, dog, there's this journalism thing where you have sources and you have anonymous sources and you trust those sources. And as long as you don't, give those sources out or burn them, essentially, you can continue to use those sources to verify stuff like this in the future. So he verified it as best he could amongst various sources that he had. That, again, he's not going to tell you what all those are. And essentially, it was really interesting how he kind of put Hipsters of the Coast in an interesting light, where they are the premier breaking news organization in the MTG community. And I thought that was an interesting way to frame that. And then I was starting to think, I'm like, there really isn't anyone else kind of in this business of reporting interesting, sometimes salacious news for Magic. So that is what that is. No, we're not going much any further than that. Just want y'all guys to know that's the thing that happened. If anything further develops, we'll let you know.
Yeah, I do want to say we had a really good discussion about this during the last pre-show for our latest Top 10s episode. So if you have access to that, you should definitely go ahead and watch it. I really liked the discussion that we had. It was kind of off the cuff there. And yeah, this was just, it was just a lot. It was a lot. It was very uncomfortable. And, you know, I think conversations like this, you know, are uncomfortable to have. And I think that's one of the reasons why we as a society have never really talked about things like this before. And that's why you're seeing conversations about, you know, racism and police brutality and things like this coming up, is because they've been avoided for so long. And, you know, while the discussions are uncomfortable, I think ultimately they need to be had. And so I just hope that it's been interesting kind of seeing our little community kind of trying to deal with that. You know, we're seeing how we as a nation and as a society are dealing with these issues, but it's been interesting seeing how our little microcosm is having to deal with that. And it's something you hope to never have to deal with, but hopefully we can move past it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Was not something I was expecting to be talking about on our show at any point. You know, it's something that you hope doesn't happen. But with all of the different cultures and subcultures in our society, on some level I'm surprised, but on some level I guess I'm not shocked that, you know, we've had these sort of the Me Too movement and lots of other things coming to the forefront, and so it shouldn't be surprising, and yet every time it is. And I know that people come to Magic Mike's to be the news discussion show, to be where you can, you know, you come to us on Wednesday night so that you know what the discussions are going to be when you go to a tournament this weekend. And I hope that we've at least said enough information so that you know what the deal is when it comes up in conversation. But beyond that, there's not much to comment on. There isn't a lot of information, and we aren't on the forefront of it. And so I feel very uncomfortable saying anything with any amount of certainty at this point. Maybe there will be more information to come, and when there is, and we can talk about it with more veracity, and we can be more professional in our presentation of knowing more facts, maybe we'll discuss it more in depth in the future. But for now,
you guys know what happened. That's what occurred. That is what has been publicly known. I don't want to speculate. I don't want to grandstand. It just is what it is, and we're going to move on. Because for me, to gather townsfolk, because to me, I just could not imagine that somehow something was going to top what happened on Thursday morning.
Yeah.
Last Wednesday night, almost right before we went on the air, Dan Lanthier wrote an email to premierplay@wizards.com. And it was later published by Daniel Fournier the next morning.
With Dan's permission.
With Dan's permission. And he wrote to Wizards, to whom it may concern, this past Saturday, I performed an illegal action in a DCI-sanctioned tournament, and the action itself and subsequent misinformation that was shared, which to this point are all very well documented, stand in complete defiance to not only Magic tournament policy, but my past accomplishments honestly earned and the moral code I hold for myself. And again, these types of actions bring all those things into question anyway. He can't explain or justify it, but know that I am deeply remorseful and regret that all of the personal development that I have worked for in the last several years is left diminished as a result, because, quite frankly, it is. Cheating has no place in Magic. Not the first player to ever break the rules of the game, and certainly will not be the last. As many have noted, in wake of this and past events, playing competitive Magic is a privilege and not a right. Having squandered that privilege, I ask that beginning with me and moving forward, or going forward rather, that the penalty be permanent suspension from organized Magic. So to be clear here, he says, my hope is that this provides a strong deterrent for anyone in a similar position to mine to be tempted and make the same mistake, resulting in a healthier Magic experience for everybody. So he essentially said, please ban me for life because I cheated.
I'll take it.
Amazing.
Yeah. You know, we've seen so many just I mean, when we we love to talk about hashtag PR nightmares. We've seen so many bad apologies of the "I'm sorry you were offended," "I'm sorry buts." We've seen sort of the wordplay that people use to kind of justify their actions, and even the wordplay that he initially used to justify his actions with the "I was correcting my board state." But I couldn't find anything wrong with this. He's owning what he did. He's trying to use it as an impetus for future change. I'm all about growth. I don't expect you to be perfect, but I do expect you to try. And while the liftoff may have been a little rocky with his initial explanation, I was a big fan of this. And I was like, you know what? This is growth. This is awareness. This is acknowledgement. He's owning it. I'll take it.
I mean, it's quite the step. And again, it's one of those things where you're like, wow, again, this is coming from an external source. This isn't Wizards, coming down hard or whatever, or wow, we all of a sudden got draconian or they got serious or whatever. No, it's like the player themselves is saying, take me away from this competitive scene because I have besmirched my good name. He has put his reputation out there in a big question mark and his accomplishments in a big question mark. And you have the Burton Genies who are going to be at the Pro Tour.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting contrast to this. You have people who have been banned for cheating, have come off of their bans, and still insist they did nothing wrong. So for somebody to preempt that, for somebody to not even get to that point and acknowledge what they did, I was a big fan of that because, I have yet to hear Betcher say, you know what, I did it. Burton Cheney writes a 3,000-word thesis, and dances around why he did it, So, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Burton Cheney, I mean, obviously until recently at least, autographed Jade Light Rangers. Like, you come on. You're two explorers. Like,
yeah.
You're leaning in. You're making it a thing. It's all funny, ha-ha, tongue-in-cheek, when a lot of people's lives have been affected very negatively by those actions. And Wizards refuses to do anything further. They refuse to talk about it. They haven't come back and talked about how they're going to be making this ship tighter, somehow making this a more fair and just way of dealing with things, perhaps having a very clear, when you do X, you get Y, such as if you are cheating to the point where we catch you on camera, does that mean forever bye-bye? I don't know, maybe, but like Dan is over here going like, this is what you should do to me, so you can show people you really shouldn't do this. It's not in your best interest, because as we've spoken, in many ways, cheating is not rewarded, but not necessarily unprofitable. And that sucks. And I don't want that. And no one who plays good, clean, fair Magic wants that at all. And it's frustrating.
Well, even those who don't play, because play direct,
right.
It's not good.
Yeah, you're
Magic.
playing a whole different game.
All right.
And I really do hope that this letter is a seed change, that leads to a seed change of how these situations are handled in the future. I think it's possible. This is a big name. Dan Lanthier was a Canadian national champion.
Yeah, won 2 Grand Prix.
And exactly. He is a big figure in Canadian Magic, in Magic in general. For him to say this, first of all, is you know what? It was a bad thing to do. But, I respect where it's deserved. This is a good thing to do out of that bad thing, Right. This is owning up to your mistake and moving forward. Yeah. Magic doesn't have to be the place where you rehabilitate your image, people.
There we go.
People who've been suspended in the past. Oh, let me redeem myself. Let me prove to you that I'm not the person that I once was. I've grown. I've changed. I don't need this isn't your testing ground. You don't get to just come back. Magic is a privilege, as we just discussed in the first pick. You don't get to just I don't have to be your redemption story. It pisses me off. I'm sorry, but and so kudos to Dan for doing it the right way. I think that this is good. I know I won't see him at Magic events because he's said so. But thank you, Dan, for this and showing the way to do it going forward.
There's not a lot of people who could put this type of money where his mouth is. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. To say, look, never again can I play in a sanctioned event. That's huge. That's a big deal.
Kudos on this. Well done. I hope I never see you at a Magic event ever again.
And we'll see how Wizards actually deals with it. And let's hope they do. Also, again, coming out and talking about constructed magic and fair play and cheating, and if things are changing. We heard in August that they were getting stuff ready, getting it all together.
I'll believe it when I see it.
At this point, yes. All right. So let's see here. There is a MTG Arena is having some events regarding Extra Life and TwitchCon, which was really interesting. There was and this is past now at this point, but there was an Extra Life event on MTG Arena that revolved around Momir and playing the Momir game where you can play X mana and get a random creature. And
now this was like standard Momir, right?
Basically, because the MTG Arena, that's pretty much all it has.
Right.
And it's so funny. And in support of Extra Life, the players began with 21 life.
Oh, cute. I like that.
Yeah, so that was super cute. However, there's a TwitchCon event coming up, Gabby's Greedy Dominaria Draft. Gabby loves drafting and building unorthodox decks, so together they're running an exploration draft. You draft 3 packs of Dominaria around a few unique rules. Everyone can play 2 lands a turn. You start with 9 cards, and you have no maximum hand size. The last time they did exploration draft stuff, it was amazing and super fun, and I loved it, and it was great. I think actually, now that I think of it, they did like constructed. I think it was constructed exploration play where you could, again, 9 cards, 2 lands a turn. It was insane.
I don't know what that is.
It's fine. It's MTG Arena thing. It's MTG Arena. It's just what everyone's playing these days because it's super awesome.
Evan is our Arena person. Someday I'll download it, and Aaron will someday.
Maybe Aaron will scoff and say something
Aaron
pithy.
Will go, oh, fine. Let me know when there's dredge on Arena.
Can I play my deck? No. No one cares, Okay. Right. Well, and speaking of Arena, just for a second here, and these are some conversations we've had this past week about the question of how to get, how would you get Modern onto Arena? Because Arena just has these current sets, and it's like, would they add all the sets all the way back to 8th edition, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no. Once I heard this, I was like, well, duh. All they have to make is one master set. One Modern master set. You include all the biggies in it. And then you literally have Modern on Arena, just like that. Just snap your fingers and it's there. And then all the people are like, oh my God, Snapshot, oh my God, or Grape Shot, oh my God, Enter the Warrens, whatever. And it's like, just don't put the Storm cards in Arena.
What?
You just don't put them in there. You don't put them in there. And it's different. It is different. However,
that's a Pandora's box, though, because that leads to them not putting the dredge cards in Arena, and then that's not good.
I honestly think they're just going to sidestep these awkward, hard to code for, hard to show and explain mechanics. It's just the easiest. It's the path of least resistance.
Like Haunt is the one that they won't bring to Arena. There you go.
Even chat is like, I don't know about all that, Evan. Like, slow it down.
I know I'm a crazy guy, but I'm just letting you know that sounded like a pretty fantastic idea.
It's funny that you mentioned, you had said that they would only put the good cards in there, but part of the joy of Modern is that you really can play anything, including even, dare I say, the bad cards, and so it'd be very interesting to see what you consider a good card worthy of inclusion, because I would bet that there are plenty of decks out there that are running less than optimal cards, but damn it, it's Modern and we love them.
And that's cool. I'm just noting that if you wanted to get fetch lands on there, if you wanted to get Snapcaster and Liliana with the snap of your fingers, as it were, that's the way to do it. All right, anyway, moving on. The second TwitchCon event is for day 9 because he really wanted Magic Arena to be Hearthstone. Therefore, he created the instant ban where you can play.
He hates blue. If you've ever watched an episode of Spellslingers, he's just always hammering on blue. He hates it.
So there's a certain queue that you can play in, and you can have no instant spells in your deck.
Wow.
That's the restriction.
Or flash.
Yeah.
That's nothing at instant speed.
Nothing at instant speed, which again is much like Hearthstone, where everybody kind of has their turn, then you pass and they do their stuff, and you pass and do their stuff, which is fine, but isn't really Magic now, is it? But it will be for that weekend, which is pretty cool. So
pretty interesting. I mean, a lot of the removal spells in Black are instant speed. A lot of things are instant speed, sort of accidentally, or not accidentally, but just are instants that could have been printed as sorceries. And so for that format, you're going to be cutting out a huge swath of cards. I think that's kind of interesting. I also think it'd be funny if a mono blue deck won that event, like that new mono blue Stompy deck ended up, because that deck has Siren Stormtamer in it, which doesn't have flash, but can still counter a spell.
Yeah, activated abilities are still available, as far as I can tell, so you'll still be able to use those, which is nice. But again, an interesting way to play Magic.
What's really good in that format is turn 3 Gigantosaurus.
It's true. Hope you have that sorcery removal. You don't even, I guess, walk the plank at that point, right?
Yeah. Walk the plank is probably like the best one.
It's gonna be a pretty terrific removal spell in that format. That said, there is Dreamhack coming to Atlanta. Dreamhack is more of an esports event. However, they are going to now have Magic events there. And the TO, the tournament organizer for it, Tim Shields, for those who may not know, who runs Cascade Games, as far as I know he still does. For the past couple days, he says on Facebook, I've been trying not to tip my hand, but he just got permission to share it. The main event at Dreamhack Atlanta has an additional prize. If you win the main event, you also qualify for the Pro Tour. Which Pro Tour? They didn't say. Not sure. Dreamhack's Magic event is... this is a very classic TO thing of qualifying for a qualifier so you can qualify to qualify. Yeah. So you have qualifiers. These are 4-round events that lead into a top 64 event that you qualify for. Now, because there's only 64 slots, you can go 4-0 and not necessarily make it into the top 64. Why? Because you earn points for all of this grinding that you do. And so if you go 4-0 and then you enter another quarter qualifier and you go 4-0 again, you'll get points on top of that original 4-0, which will almost guarantee you your entry into the top 64. Once you're in the top 64, you have to make it all the way to the top 8, and then you will qualify for another draft, and then the winner of that one will finally get some amount of $5,000, but also now a Pro Tour invite.
Sure.
It's all kind of exhausting to explain personally, but it's whatever.
So they only announced a Magic because Dreamhack is a huge series of events. It's
right.
I got my Yargle playmat from Dreamhack Austin, I think. One of my friends got me one of those. And even before the end of the year, there's a half dozen Dreamhacks from Atlanta. All the rest are overseas. But this is the only one that has a Magic tournament, or are they going to put Magic events?
I don't know. Right at this point, all the information I have is that it's definitely going to happen in Atlanta. He's definitely running Atlanta, and the events to qualify, so you can qualify while you're qualifying. Yo, dog, I heard you like qualifying.
I'm just happy to see, I don't know very much about Dreamhack and I don't know very much about this, but I'm just happy to see Cascade Games added again. They were one of my favorite TOs. I know when the Monopoly was announced, they were one of the few TOs that I was sad to see go. Like I always had a good time at Cascade events. I had Tim Shields on my show back in the day, and he was really lovely and definitely one of the more forward-thinking TOs that I've ever met. So I'm just glad to see him running any Magic event, to be honest.
Yeah, and he's been running some other events. I think he's been doing a lot of X-Wing events and stuff. Around the country and whatnot. So still organizing events, just not necessarily the big Magic events anymore.
They do a ton of stuff. They're all over the place. Cascade is going to be at TwitchCon. They do a Dreamhack. They do.
Who else is going to be at TwitchCon? Who?
The internet's Ruben.
Oh,
Wrestler?
the internet sensation.
Oh, okay.
TwitchCon. Yes, he will. From what I understand, he'll have to check his schedule to make sure he's available.
Star of the Broken Pact, his people will call your people. You know,
I'm not trying to brag, but you know,
is what it is. All right.
But yeah.
Well, look, we now have some good news to report. Isn't it awesome to talk about good news? Mm-hmm. We don't necessarily have to yell at
news, as Kathleen would say on the panelists.
Nice, everyone. Well, look, there was the pre-release that wasn't, and now there's the free release that was. And I'll put the link in the chat. This is a coolstuffinc.com article by Bruce Richard where he said, yo, remember when all those kids got completely disappointed and screwed over? Well, turns out they're not screwed over anymore. And Wizards sent them a bunch of product. And it's kind of funny and a little, like the kids couldn't all show up because of such short notice. Whereas, it's very important, again, for kids to be able to work into their parents' schedules and to have this stuff ready to go at a certain time and yada, yada. So they use the extra product just to give away to the kids, and that's fantastic.
They had a good turnout of 26 children. I guess their normal is 36, but they were still able to have the event at the library. They did find a different store to partner with.
Right.
And Wizards provided the product for free. The Guilds of Ravnica, all the cards were free. And they just had a really lovely time. For people like me who follow this event, this is one of the highlights highlights of pre-release season for me, is seeing these articles and seeing these kids. And so I was just so excited. And I even remember some of them, you know, I follow this sort of storyline. And so I remember the little boy with the crazy red curls, and I remember the volunteers that he has that runs it with him. And so this was just such a delight to see, and just a glimmer of good news in otherwise what could have been a really unfortunate week or unfortunate weekend. And I was so happy to see this. And they were just so geeked. Like, if you just look at all the pictures, they're just so stoked. And I love everything about it.
Also, like that picture of when everyone's over there eating lunch, they just left their stuff at the tables.
Yeah.
Because they're not worried about someone coming in, janking all their crap or whatever. It's like, oh, let's go over and eat, and then we'll come back and we'll finish our games. That's just
like, you know, he really, you know, he, in addition to talking about, you know, what Wizards did, I think this article really highlighted why this is such an ideal circumstance for these kids. You know, it's a safe, clean environment where you can go in a different room and eat your lunch, and you don't have to worry about your cards, and they do, you know, you do get a lunch break, or you do get food. And so this is a great template. If somebody wanted to try something like this, it sounds like you very well could. And this was just great to see. And he also mentions the other people, like John Medina, you know, tried gathering up packs. Like, there were people in the community that if Wizards didn't respond, they were prepared to like go fund me this. They were prepared to come up with their own product. And so Bruce gives them a shout out as well. And so just a great shout out to the community here in every sense of the word.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and he mentions this in the article. I wasn't going to mention it myself, but he mentions that, you know, I reached out to him and I was like, look, man, like, CSI is going to make this right no matter what happens. Like, it can't. You know.
Another thing I really liked was that he says that he learns something new every time he runs one of these tournaments. And this time around, he was like, hey, maybe we should just always have lunch breaks, because people are willing to drop. And especially with kids, you know, people so they took a half-hour lunch break, which I thought was a great idea.
Yeah. So based on what I can tell here, Wizards stepped out and worked out with a nearby store that their allotment of pre-release kits would be their usual amount plus 40 more for the community library pre-release. So part of the original issue was that the store that he was going through wasn't qualifying for WPN status based on you literally couldn't fit people in there to play events, and that's what Wizards cares about. So they found a different place that can fit the amount of people that Wizards is comfortable with, but just kind of made a satellite bit, you know, to help these kids out. And again, if this is a thing that can possibly happen elsewhere, that would be great. And if it doesn't, that's okay. It's Wizards sandbox or whatever, but we certainly hope that these types of solutions are not the most rare.
Right. Well, the thing for me that occurred to me is, obviously this is this is good news, as we referenced, but we've talked about on the show about similar situations where people who had their WPN status pulled,
pubs and bars,
have enough room in a store and had to play in a bar. This was a year and a half ago at this point, maybe 2 years ago, when we were talking about the European stores and the English stores. There isn't a ton of floor space available in downtown London or wherever we were talking about, and that they sort of partnered with pubs, and so the Magic clubs would play upstairs at the pub, and then they got their status revoked. So if we can solve this, why can't we solve that other thing?
Yeah.
And I think we can. I think this is the article, and this is the situation that they would point to say, look, solutions were found when space was hard to come by. There's
precedent now.
Right. Can we figure this out? And again, Wizards can totally say no, but at least there is some sort of blueprint that says this can work. This can function.
It's much easier to sell the idea when it's a bunch of adorable school children, right? It's a whole other thing when it's a Magic club playing in a bar.
Right.
But hopefully it you know.
Maybe that bar is close to a library.
Right.
And maybe you can go over and play at the library.
The library is now open.
The library is terrific. Well, look, moving on here, MTG Goldfish this week announced a Arena companion app, an app that you download, and then you sign into your MTG Goldfish account, and then you can synchronize your MTG Arena collection with your MTG Goldfish collection that's tracking your account. That way, if you were to look at a deck, for example, it will tell you which cards you have and which cards you don't have, which is pretty neat in a variety of ways.
There's a bigger story out of MTG Goldfish this week. I can't believe you didn't. They have a podcast.
They have a podcast.
And they had a guest.
And they had a guest.
Jerry Duke.
Bae.
It was the cutest thing. So he's on this show and he's so humble. He's so damn humble, but he says something along the lines of like, you may have seen me in the Peach Guy. Who hasn't seen you? Like, and he says like, he still acts like no one knows who he is. It was the most charming thing I've ever heard. If you have a chance, go listen to it, because Reed doesn't do podcasts very often. Although he was on my show a couple of years ago, but yeah, it was a very delightful episode. Please go listen to it. Support Reed, support the show. It was great.
I mean, it's Superman. How could you not support Superman? All right.
Oh my good. Actually, more like Captain America, honestly.
Right.
Like Chris
I'll
Evans, is on the way out. So
we're gonna need somebody, aren't we?
we will. Yeah.
All right.
So about this, I don't understand exactly what is happening with this app.
Well, here's what happens. The way Magic Arena currently works is that your entire collection, every deck that you've ever built, all of the information about, even about as I understand it, the matches that you've played, go into this giant log file. Okay.
Wow.
This giant log file is like 14 megs or something, and it's just full of text. It's just chock full of literally everything in your collection, everything that you've done since the last time that I think you either finished a game or closed the program happens to be in that file. And the people, and I have programmer friends who are like digging deep to try to figure out what's in there and what's not. Like if you dig deep, you can dig so deep, because this is based on the Unity framework and there's Unity tools to kind of look at the data assets and stuff. You can go down and find the 3D models that they are using for the stuff that jumps out of the thing and roars at people. Those are just 3D models, and the 3D model files are in all the assets. Like that's a thing. All of the artwork for the cards is there. Not the hugest resolution you've ever seen, but in good resolution if you wanted to go find it. So either way, so you can take this log file that again contains your collection amongst other sundries, zip it zips up to like 800K, which is nothing, and then use a companion app to send that file to MTG Goldfish and then synchronize your collection both in your arena and on MTG Goldfish. So when you look at decks on MTG Goldfish, you can see whether or not you have those cards or what cards you need. There's a premium service that you can pay for, that if you have paid for it, it will, what does it do here? It will show you, you can use Super Brew and see what decks you can build based on your collection.
Oh, that's neat. I like that.
Which is really neat. So yeah, it's one of those things. So if this log file, I don't know if this is actually confirmed, if this log file actually contains match data, they could have one of the most incredible data mining operations that we've seen in Magic. Way bigger than when they used to analyze the replays back in the day.
Yep.
Because not only is this something they can do, it's something that Wizards would have a really hard time stopping.
Yeah.
Like it was one thing when Wizards said, look, we're just going to shut off the replays, blah, 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 blah. Well, look, if someone installs something in their taskbar, you're going to go nuts.
Well, they also put the kibosh on people that were doing the deck list dumps, where you remember a while back, I think even MTG Goldfish was the one that kind of spearheaded that, where they would go through so many deck lists of like, I just remember there were these huge data dumps, and Wizards had come down on them and I think asked them not to release all of that information, and that led to Wizards starting to keep the deck lists a lot closer to the chest. And so if they've put the kibosh on previous efforts to release data from other people releasing the data, what makes you think they wouldn't do it for this?
Well, there is currently, at least based on what I've seen here, MTG A Tracker at mtgatracker.com. Thank you very much, chat, for pointing this out. There was a closed beta season where they had there was 183,000 tracked games. Since open beta, they have tracked an average of 14,000 games a day. That's insane. So you have things like real-time deck tracking, aka you can see a list of literally all the cards left in your deck dynamically.
Yeah.
Detailed
Very
match
similar
history.
to various. I mean, if you're going to make Arena an esport, this is very similar to what they do in Hearthstone.
Oh, it's 100% similar, and it's the 100% thing I have desperately wanted in Magic for a very long time, because
hashtag data Hearthstone money.
This guy.
I came up with that one as I was saying it, which was fun.
Very nice, very nice. Well, look, this is one of those again. MTG A Tracker has clearly cracked some amount of the code. MTG Goldfish has the ability to track things, whether or not that information is shared or not. You know, I would always be, for what it's worth, and again, no shade to MTG Goldfish, always be very careful about random programs that you install and certainly run in your taskbars. But
Sure.
if
Oh
this,
man, you're gonna get like an insidious saffron olive, text message alert, like how
how dare you say everyone? I'm like, no, man, I'm not saying yours is bad. I'm saying
a
everybody needs to
text
be
message
aware.
comes in and you're like, probably a text message. Like,
Right.
oh boy.
Wow.
You should probably watch your mouth. All
You
right?
should probably keep my website's name out of your face.
Saffron Olive, better known as at your front door right now.
That said, let's move on to something absolutely awesome. And I'm going to get it set up here so we can all watch it together.
Oh boy.
Because there was a fundraiser that was occurring. And they said, look, if we raise $1,000 or more, I will pie Mark Rosewater in the face.
Oh boy.
Let's watch.
We got the pie. Let's see. I think he's here. Okay, he's here. Let's go. Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
For the kids.
What?
Oh, no.
Wow.
Oh.
I'm having bad flashbacks. Me getting pied in the face is almost like Mark getting pied in the face.
Well, I'll take your word for it, seeing as I won't be getting pied in the
Won't be
face.
losing.
How many decks with Muslim secrets so far? None, right?
Yeah, fair.
Wow. So I'm being told there's a better angle, but I don't know where
Yeah,
to view
they
it.
tweeted out a different angle as well, but that one was the first person shooter angle. There's a
I
third
love that the chat's concerned with who cleaned that up.
Wizards. Actual wizards cleaned it up.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
man.
read the
They cast
wand.
prestidigitation and sparkled up the floor right away.
Prestidigitation, y'all.
It's a cantrip. It's a wizard cantrip, Evan.
Wow. All I know is the cleaning up of the pie actually kind of turns into a thing sometimes. So just be aware of that.
Yeah.
More
Yeah.
pie
When I got
shenanigans.
pied in the face twice, what y'all didn't see after we hit stop was everybody else was like, oh, that was fun. Go back out into the kitchen. I spent the next half an hour getting whipped cream and crumblies out of the nooks and crannies of my face and my nose and my beard,
You found some
I've been
crannies you didn't
trying
even know
to-
were nooking in there.
and then trying to shove it down the shower. Showers aren't designed for pie crust. Spoiler alert. Not great.
Oh boy.
Woo! Wow. Well, thanks, buddy. I appreciate you going through the the trials and
At
tribulations.
least Mark sort of feels my pain. He didn't have to. I don't know, actually. Maybe we should ask him. We should ask him after you got pied in the face. Did the person who pied you in the face immediately leave, and then you had to clean it up by yourself?
Oh man. Wow. All right. Well, look. Moving on here. Magic Europe tweeted out this past week where they noted, look, the Guilds of Ravnica tabletop Planeswalker decks, aka the Planeswalker decks you see in mass market, the Planeswalker decks you can get at your friendly local game store, they have a unique code in them to redeem the exact same deck in the video game Magic Arena. So again, this is a step they literally would never get close with a 10-foot pole with MTG Online. But yet with Magic Arena, we're already leaning in. We're already putting these cards into mass market products. They're putting Magic Arena in Walmart. That's important. It's reaching the kitchen tablers, the casuals. Like this is what they want to. This is where they want to steer them, and they're going exactly where they want to go. So we'll see how much further we get into this integration. But it is great to see. This is stuff I was begging for them to do like 10, 12 years ago.
Absolutely.
So we
Why
finally
did,
got
like,
it.
The World of Warcraft trading card game used to do this with individual cards.
I mean, Pokemon still does it to this day.
Right.
You buy a Pokemon product, you go online, you get the same thing. You buy a pack, you go online, you get a pack of Pokemon cards. Like that's
Look, better late than never. Very late.
very
but
late, but not never.
we've done it.
And that's appreciated. Let's move on here to Desperate Ravings, where we begin with PPTQ Madness in Brazil. Now, it took me a minute to get my head around this one, all right? And they tweeted at me when this first broke, and I was like, I just don't really understand what's going on.
Same.
I finally figured it out, okay? So, look, basically what they were saying was that they are grossly overpricing their PPTQ entry for what I think is also, like, not at very good prices anyway. But what they've done is they've given free entry into the PPTQ to all of their local players that play in FNM, that play in their local tournaments and stuff like that. So essentially, they're keeping the outsiders out, and they're keeping the insiders in. So if you're in the cool club, and you're playing at that store regularly, and you're playing all their events regularly, and you're doing well in their events regularly, that's cool. You're part of the cool people. You get to play for free. And if not, you get to pay what is equivalent to 1 week's entire salary in that area.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, to play at minimum wage, 1 week's entire salary in order to play in this event, whose events, or whose, again, prizes, as I understand them, are not very good.
I don't know what minimum wage is there, but that's like...
So the minimum wage is rather low there. If I'm understanding the Reddit post correctly, $954 was quoted. I don't know if that's a weekly...
Well, that's in their currency. In American currency, it's about $240 a month. So it's about $60 to play in this event. So you can
it was higher than the entry cost of GP Sao Paulo even. So that made it even more offensive.
Right. So imagine, how awful and how bad this looks as a result. And this is one of those... They're technically, arguably, doing it within the rules. Within the rules in that you can provide free PPTQ entry if you want to. You can create a way to do that. That's fine. You're going to set the entry price for the event, whatever. But I'm guessing that Wizards weren't thinking about a store that would give all of the entries for free to their local players that they like and enjoy and want to foster, and everybody else go away. And we're going to make it so expensive you shouldn't even bother playing. Just let our people play, not everybody else. This, to me, also points to certain things like you need minimum pricing for event entry, but also maximum pricing for event entry based on where you are in the world, because different amounts are different for different people and whatnot. But some amount of common sense guidelines keep stuff like this away.
Yeah, I'm reading that the prize support wasn't very good either. So it's not like you were paying for all of that and getting a great experience. You're paying for all of that and, just not getting anything really for your money. And so it was disappointing on a number of levels. We've talked about how Brazil really struggles with getting product sometimes, and how, even when you are able to get product, well, now you're having to, here's another barrier for you. And so I've had the pleasure of getting to know several Brazilian Magic players, and it's been, just kind of heartbreaking to hear about, we take such things for granted. And here, we can go to multiple pre-releases over a weekend, and they're all usually reasonably priced with good price support. And here you read something like this and you're like, wow, you realize how radically different it is in other areas. And so I hope that they, it seems like they had enough, visible names that were willing to kind of throw their weight behind this. And I hope that, it inspires some change, because they should, everybody should have the experience that we do.
Yeah. It's easy for us to forget exactly how hard it is to play Magic outside of the United States in a lot of cases, particularly in large-sized countries the size of the United States that don't have the number of cities or the high level of population, or in general, just the prize support of Magic. This is why historically places like Brazil and Russia have had so many Magic Online grinders.
Yeah,
is simply because it's just impossible to play Magic like we do. Like within an hour drive of where I'm sitting, there's a dozen game stores where I could go to FNM. I can fly to a GP every other weekend if I want to. A lot of American players do that. If you live in Brazil, you've got GP Sao Paulo, half the country away from Rio, the other major city, or vice versa. Let alone if you live out in the sticks, let alone if you live several hours away. So, for places, especially for places like Russia and Brazil, you got to know the PPTQ and RPTQ calendar and plan way ahead and know all of the details. And so like last minute surprises like this just ruin people and really drive people away from the game.
Yeah, I had a young man who lives in Japan. It's not Brazil, but when Eternal Weekend Asia was going on, I really wanted the Golgari Grave Troll playmat, and you could only get it there. And I kind of put my feelers out there, indicating that I wanted the playmat. And there was a young man who I know from some dredge boards, and he was like, "Hey, I'll trade you for the playmat." And I was prepared to like pay money for it. Where I was like, "All right, name your price, I'll do it." And he was like, "Can I get 4 Cabal therapies?" And I'm like, okay. Cabal therapy is $3 a piece here. Like OG Cabal therapies are $3 a piece. He's like, yeah, I can't get in here. And I'm like, huh, like I can go on cool stuff and you guys have over 24 of them. And I'm like, okay. And so it's again, it's something we don't think about, that the affordability, the accessibility we have to cards is something that not every area has.
The accessibility.
I was like okay, I'll pay $12 for Cabal Therapies for a $50-$60 playmat and send them to you. And he was like, oh, and one more thing. He was like, I want you to sign them. And I was like, done. So it was a very, very good trade.
Nice. All right, so we're going to move on here. A lot of stuff to cover. Not too much time left. I'm going to send a link to you guys privately, to Aaron and Ruben, to hopefully understand what I'm talking about. Mainly Aaron. MTG Arena. We're back to Arena. I love Arena. Arena has a weird problem right now, which is once you have 4 of a card, you can still open copies of that card. And when you do so, it increases your vault. I don't even want to explain what the vault is anymore. It's a bunch of free stuff you get later. The point is, whenever you open a pack, those little orange indicators around the gold wild card and around the uncommon wild card, every time you open a pack, those move. Okay, those fill in 1. And once you fill in all of them, you get a free gold wild card or a free uncommon wild card, whichever that one happens to be. Okay, then you can turn those things to whatever you want.
Following you so far.
Cool.
I already closed out the image.
Fantastic. Now look, if you get a 5th copy of a card, and particularly a rare, it's more, we're really talking about rares, because rares are so hard to get and find on Magic Arena, because that's where they really squeeze you there. Yes, they do. And if you were to open a 5th Steam Vents after you have 4 of them, if it were to simply move another orange bar, so you get 1 for opening the pack and another for the 5th copy of this thing you already have, that's the proposed change. Because right now it doesn't do that extra bump. It adds something to the magical vault that fills up in some random rate that you can find if you use an external program like MTG A Tracker or whatever. And yeah, that's pretty much the idea. That's the concept.
I mean, that sounds pretty easy to implement and wouldn't break their system.
Yeah, and that to me makes a lot of sense. You know,
and solves one of the big issues that people were talking about, which is, you know, what happens with these extra, because we talked about recently, you know, when you play Hearthstone and you get an extra copy of a card, you can dust it for a 4th or a 5th of a card. Right. You can do the same thing in Eternal or in any of the other online card games. And for Arena, it's like what, a 100th was what we decided, or a 30th?
It was like a 35th or something, and this would bring it down to like 1/6, because again it has to do 6 times,
which is better than a 30th.
Which is better than a 30th or 35th or whatever of a card when you open up the 5th copy. So it would be a monster change, as has been mentioned in the chat, to what happens there. All right. So moving on here, and this is another one where I get to show you guys a video, because you really kind of got to see it to understand it. Now, one of the things you have to understand is that MTG Arena does not have foils. They don't have premium cards in any fashion. And I think that's stupid. And I want to explain why I think that's dumb, because there's a whole host of people who love to bling out their decks. Like, it's a whole thing in the Magic culture in order to have foil versions, and that your special mythical planeswalkers that you just made for $250 or whatever a box, you didn't make those non-foil, you made those foil. You made them premium, you made them special, right? How do you make it special and not make it too weird on Magic Arena? Well, first, let's look at the special part. You take a look here at Jeffrey Palmer, aka Living Cards MTG, who has been animating cards for years.
Yep.
Shows here what Chandra Torch of Defiance could look like in an Arena client type scenario, type setup. And it's and someone said there's no cosmetics in beta. No, it's not that the cosmetics, it's that they literally, as far as I know, have zero plan to put foils into the client, and I think that's a huge mistake.
There are card animations, like when you play an Impervious Great Worm or whatever.
And that's totally cool. And those are sweet. And I want to keep those. But this type of animation that I'm showing right now on the screen looks super, super cool and would get people super pumped, I think, for having a premium version of a card. You can do this in a variety of ways. For example, if you opened your 5th Steam Vents, maybe you got a premium Steam Vents instead.
Ooh,
that'd be pretty cool. What if you could only get that Chandra by attending an FNM on a certain date, or by attending 4 FNMs in a month, or whatever? Like, give them hoops, give them carrots to get as a result of doing certain actions, and this can be a unique and special and cool thing that you don't even necessarily have to do for every single card. You can just do it for like the big mythics or whatever that you want. And you can create these scenarios of carrot and stick and show people, here's your incentive. Your incentive is this really sweet looking, unique MTGA card. Go do this to get it. That would be pretty awesome.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, shout out to Living Cards MTG and to the proxy guy who, by their powers combined, they created this amazing, what's it called when the anime guys do this? Just an amazing confluence of powers here between the two of them.
I honestly have no idea.
I've talked with both of them and commissioned stuff from both of them in the past. So well done on the finished product here, because this looks absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it looks amazing. So that was really terrific. Moving on here again, we have plenty of topics this evening. Art books. Let's see, Doug Beyer, who is a guy who's been in charge of Magic Story from time to time. He's been reviewing things from time to time. He noted that essentially he's kind of retconning some stuff that has been written in the art books, is what I understand this to be.
All right.
The story gets weird. The story is all over the place. A lot of people have been writing the story. Sometimes the stories in the player's guides don't necessarily match the novels, which don't necessarily match a comic book or something that they made.
I'm running into that a lot with the original Ravnica novels and the Broken Pact.
Yeah, they kind of made it up as they went along. I had to take, and if you go back and you watch my Forgotten Lore videos on the original Ravnica, you'll see some of that where I kind of had to choose an avenue and say, this is the story thing that they chose. Yeah. You could make arguments for other stuff, but I'm not going to get into it, blah, 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 blah. So it was interesting that he kind of came back and said, look, I'm retconning some stuff. We have to retcon some stuff. It's not the end of the world if X doesn't start at Y time. Deal with it. And I'm not sure if I see this as they're kind of taking the timeline and you know, the retconning and making sure that they don't have to retcon stuff. They're trying to pay more attention. You know, they just hired, or at least, you know, just contracted Jay and Ellie to help keep the continuity, you know, in place, because they feel it's very important.
Essentially being a script supervisor for the entire Magic story. Yeah, I'm glad that they're paying more attention to it. It is kind of weird that that it hasn't happened up to this point, but I don't blame them for not having it the whole time. Like, there's no way that you could have predicted at the start of Magic that you would have needed someone to keep all of the story straight. Like, that's an inevitability that you don't predict when you come out with a card game.
Yeah, and let me tell you, if you try to go way back, man, they flew by the seat of their pants constantly. Yep. The Brothers' War itself, literally the tale of what happened between the two brothers, Urza and Mishra, there's like 2 to 3 different versions of it. Like, it's weird. All right, so moving on here. There is a new format on the block.
Great.
Ladies and gentlemen. And first of all, I'm totally okay with that, all right? There's nothing wrong with that. I want you guys to make all your formats to your heart's content. That's terrific. But when you name it middle school, I'm going to poke fun at it.
Well, it's a take on old school.
It's a take on old school. The old school format, which is the 93-94 format, right?
Yeah. So this was initially pitched on eternalcentral.com, which is a wonderful website for vintage and legacy content. And so they're basically looking to do a spin-off of old school, which has seen a rise in popularity lately, which has kind of surprised me personally, because it's just as expensive as vintage to get into, quite honestly. But it has some different decks. Some people argue it's a bit more diverse. And so this is a take on that, where you are able to play, this goes from 1995 to 2003. And there's some interesting rules differences here. Mana burn still happens. I know there's some kids in the chat that have no idea what mana burn is. So you lose 1 point of life for each unused mana in your mana pool at the end of each phase. Damage still uses the stack. That's another one I wasn't around for, but I'm imagining those are, I've been told there's some wild times. Combat tricks such as Morphling, Triskelion, and Mog Fanatics still work. And the Judgment Wish cycle works as originally designed. So pre-M10, the rules were that Cunning Wish, Burning Wish, Living Wish, Death Wish, and Golden Wish were able to find an appropriate card that had either been removed from the game or was located in your sideboard. The wishes were since changed to where it's just sideboard now, I understand. And so there's some neat little rules catches here. Looks a lot like pre-modern, which Joel Larson has been a big proponent of recently. And I think this is exciting. You know, they posted a lot of deck lists from that era that you can sort of use as inspiration if you want to. Rumor has it several people at Eternal Weekend this year, which I will be at next weekend.
Hey-o.
So if you're going to US Eternal Weekend, come say hello. It's going to be an amazing time. Rumor has it that several people are going to be bringing decks from middle school to Eternal Weekend.
Nice.
So we'll be able to play that in addition
Yeah,
to
the East Coast calls this hyperextended, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's the Atlanta community. The greater Atlanta community has been playing a format they have designed called hyperextended. Europe has been calling it pre-modern. So there's been some seeds of this that have already been planted, but I think it looks sweet. You know, I'm all for people kind of making their own fun, you know, as opposed to, you know, just sort of complaining about things not being the way they want. Go ahead and make your own format. I think it's great. And if someone has a deck they want to loan me at Eternal Weekend, I would totally play this. I think it's fun. I do want to call out that my favorite part of this article is when they got snarky.
Yeah.
There was somebody in the article that said, where did it go? If you're
Jaco wrote the article.
Jaco, Vintage League Superstar Jaco. He says, if you're an investor with quotes around it, or speculator looking at potentially monetizing exploitable cards, take this time to kindly copulate with yourself. And what he's basically saying is that anytime a new format comes out, you always have those finance guys that are buying all the cards. And so they're saying that middle school rules will allow all versions of all legal cards. So feel free to take your lecherous behavior elsewhere. And so that was a nice kind of screw you to the people that might look at this and want to try to
great words in there, lecherous,
make it more expensive. So I'm excited about this. I think it's fun.
Well, look, I'm introducing that weird period after college. I'm also introducing a new format. That one time you had that one job and it sucked. And lastly, I'm introducing Life, the Universe, and Everything, which is only using cards from Apocalypse, the 42nd set ever published. I'm sorry, they wrote themselves. I couldn't.
Apologies to Young Mage if he's in the chat, but I got to tell you, middle school sucked for me.
Yeah.
You 7th and 8th grade were not fun.
Those were not great for me either.
But I don't think they're great for anybody. I think that's just a tough time for everybody involved.
Yeah.
The format looks a lot better than actual middle school.
That bar is low. All right.
The bar is very low.
Bar is very low. But let's talk about something super fun. Something that's not fun. Something super fun. What's super fun is Pascal Maynard.
Now listen, this could have gone horribly awry. So
absolutely.
When I first saw the tweet, it said, Pascal Maynard says, just qualified for the Mox playoff through a Mexican themed party. And I was like, oh no. Like I was expecting there to be serapes and sombreros and fake mustaches and maracas. And I was like, oh no. Like, honey, no. Like, but he's just dressed up as a giant pepper, I guess, which is fine. But when I first heard about it, I was prepared for some nonsense. Or it's just like, it was like the car crash where like you're covering your face, but you have like the finger. You're like, oh no. And it could have been more awful.
That face.
Yeah.
So like the people around it, it's almost like accidental Renaissance. You know, there's a little subreddit where you're just like,
Hayne is like half in the bag. Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah. There's a whole host.
This could have gone very badly, but it was executed perfectly.
Yeah, it was very well done.
Absolutely perfect, and that was hilarious. So congrats to Pascal Maynard for what is now his profile picture.
Yeah, successfully memed. He memed successfully. Well done.
Yeah. He memed himself quite well.
That was a spicy meme.
That's a spicy meme. Well, look, I think it's time to go to the red zone. Because, yeah, we could talk about this other story, but it wasn't that good. What I want to talk about is Bolton the Bird. The MTG bracket, the Magic bracket, where they have been voting on every Magic card that exists for years now.
Since 2016.
Since 2016 we've been at this. Well, now it's time. There's still a week left to vote your pick in the grand finals of Lightning Bolt and Birds of Paradise. And at which point, I snap Lightning Bolt, and Rube also cracks a Lightning Bolt. And Aaron, tweet.
I'm going Bird. I won't even hang a mountain on my wall. You think I'm going to vote for a Bolt? I sure won't. Nope. I'm Team Bird.
What's wrong with the Bird?
Bird is more, it's more versatile. It leads to bigger things. A Bolt just does one thing and one thing only. It just does 3 damage That's all it does. Whereas a bird, you can make any color mana you want. You can ramp into whatever you want. It opens up more doors. It creates more possibilities. It has more dignity. It has more pride. It has more. I mean, where do I start? You know, just
you're grabbing my toss over here. Look, I get that, but you're wrong, and we hate you. It's just kind of how it works. Because Bolt, for me, Lightning Bolt is a very quintessential card, very easy to explain. You know, hey, Grandma, it's a bolt. It hurts things. And you're like, oh, I get electricity. Electricity hurts. You know, you get it. All right, it's fine. It's fine. But like birds, you got to talk about mana systems and resource systems and how it used to be Volcanic Island, but then you drew a bird too close.
Big words. I guess we lose the burn players with the big words because y'all just communicate with runs.
How dare you? Burn players have lots of thesauruses because we need to keep renaming burn spells different things.
It's true. The burniest burn spells of Bernie burns.
Let's go with sulfurous
strike.
Unlicensed disintegration.
Yeah, we're continuing to get into like the weird, awkward. They're going to start switching around names and stuff. You know, It's going to be sudden bolt or something, and you're like, what?
There is someone in the chat with a lisp that's very mad at you right now.
Wow. Well, let me tell you, that to me is, again, we've gotten all the way down. Black Lotus was defeated. Wrath of God was defeated. We've gotten to bolting the bird. And it's just amazing that one of the first things I was ever taught as a Magic player back in 1996 was you always bolt the bird.
I am so, first of all, obviously I'm a bolt aficionado, but these would probably have been the two cards that I would have picked. Honestly, if I could have had my druthers and just chosen the finals. Lightning Bolt is my homeboy. We've been together through thick and thin, every format that I've ever played in. I love a Lightning Bolt. Birds of Paradise was the first playset of a rare that I ever got signed by the artist. At my first ever Origins game fair, I had a playset of Birds of Paradise in 4 different languages, and I went up to Mark Poole and had him sign my Birds of Paradise. Throughout the entire competition of the MTG bracket, Lightning Bolt and Birds of Paradise had the best winning percentage through the whole tournament. Birds had the biggest victories in rounds 4 and 5. Lightning Bolt had the biggest victories in 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. So the fact that these two are meeting in the finals isn't just a meme. It's not just Bolt the Bird, although Magic players love nothing more than a good meme. That's a spicy meme, Pascal.
It's true.
But in addition to that, this is also just the perfect finals. So it's a tough choice for me and my heart. This is like trying to choose between my children. But I have to go with Bolt, but I don't fault you for choosing Birds of Paradise.
Sure you do. Come on now. Get out of here. That's the whole point. Yeah. It's fine. We're faulting. It's fine. Now look, and for what it's worth, Mark Poole remains a mainstay in the fantasy art realm, still at all the shows is a super crazy cool guy. And
I will also say Birds of Paradise had a much tougher path to the finals than Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt was never really challenged, I don't think. Birds had to take down some comers, man. It had to handle some fights.
I don't know. I know many people who use Bolt that are challenged.
Wow. Well, look, on that note, let's keep moving to some splash damage, where it's not necessarily about Magic, but it's about Magic. ProZD. If you've never heard of ProZD, he is a content creator who is absolutely hilarious and has made a new video called When You Have a Really Good Turn in a Card Game. And he does an amazing job basically making fun of what happens when you try to understand card games and they're having giant combos go off and you have no idea what's going on. Of course, at this point, he's going infinite with his 3 cheese chakra to make his cheese factory produce 9 cheese chakra.
Get ready for the Somersault Cheese Factory metagame, everybody.
This was cute and all, but like you paid someone to make a video.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Have you never heard of paying people who are famous to sell things? It's an advertising thing.
It's a weird thing, and for what it's worth, it certainly works because this, ProZD gets tons and tons of views. As of right now, this thing has been out for since yesterday apparently, and
Yeah.
it already has 370,000 views. Like,
Yeah, man.
even
Boy is super popular. Sungwon Cho is the guy's name. He's a Korean YouTuber. He's got a 1.5 million YouTube subscribers. So better than the Magic Tricks top 10 garbage video that we were making fun of the other day. This is a lot better than that. At least he knows the joke to make.
Yeah, the idea if there's talking about dairy cows and there's farmlands and there's raging bulls that only come out when the dairy cow has 5 milk containers.
Yeah.
It's
and you
just
can turn those milk containers into dairy dollars and turn Aaron, are you with me yet?
Are we doing this?
New combo deck. It's almost as good as Storm in Walmart. We're gonna put cheese combo in Walmart.
That's right. It's so funny. Someone actually mentioned one of the things he does in the video is that he taps it and then he taps it again so it's upside down. Then he taps it again so it's kind of to the left and whatnot. And someone's like, "Man, I really want to double and triple tap now." It's like, well, maybe one day. We'll see. The exert got close. But anyway, the idea again that we're reaching outside the realm of just our little bubble into very popular content creators to make stuff about Magic that doesn't go off the deep end, that doesn't start talking about magic tricks, but keeps it like it's making fun of the culture, but in a way that it feels almost like a love letter rather than we're like making fun of you or we don't understand you or we don't get it.
The jokes in the language of Magic the Gathering, even though the cards weren't Magic cards, they were his dairy themed card game.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the language of Magic the Gathering. It spoke in the way that meant that he knew what he was talking about, and that it would and him as a content creator. This is a thing that Magic has a big issue with, which is reaching outside of its normal comfort zone to try to reach other people.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very popular game, and the rate at which it keeps people in is amazing, but it does have sort of a low orbit, and so things like this are exactly what Magic needs.
Yeah, I mean, we've had Floop in the Pig in Adventure Time. We've had literal Magic show up in South Park. That was also insane. And now we have this, which is really cool. So let's go ahead and pick a winner because the giveaway has ended officially. Congratulations to SF Tortoise.
Oh my God, they're a chat regular. Congratulations.
Very nice. Thank you very much for hanging out. Congratulations on winning the prize. Please whisper Aaron, yes, who can help get the
Let me make sure my whispers are on.
I was gonna say,
Make sure
Aaron
whispers
doesn't
are on.
really like DMs. She doesn't even let everybody follow her.
It's true. And again, I felt like the most universal way was to message the moderators on the Magic Mike subreddit.
I will say though, there was a young man on Reddit who asked me to unblock him, and you know what the secret was? He had a really cute baby. Like he was like, "Listen, girl, I know why you blocked me, but I got a baby." And I looked at
There are a couple of ways to Aaron's heart. One of them is a cute baby.
Yeah.
There's another one. And also if you play Dredge.
And also Dredge. All right, got it. Fantastic. Well, look, either way, contact us there, contact us here. We will happily get your $50 gift certificate to coolstuffinc.com. Thank you, Cool Stuff, for that. But we get to end the show on, at least not end it necessarily, but at least we're winding down here on a insane screw up.
Oh God, this is so wild.
This is
some. If you think that this show sometimes talks about inside baseball and goes deep into like the Magic player news, this is some stuff that I'm not even sure I completely.
This
get.
has to be one of the biggest train wrecks I've ever seen. Like
Pretty great.
It's pretty rough. Well, look, there is a Final Fantasy trading card game. You can purchase it right now on coolstuffinc.com if you would like. But they seem to have a little bit of a problem actually getting their product into the hands of stores and organizers around North America. There was supposed to be they're up to their 7th set. They call them opuses. So there's Opus 1 is the first set, Opus 2 is the second set, so on and so forth. Well, we're up to Opus 7, right? Where you would expect a company to more or less have their processes and things down, so you wouldn't have things like a pre-release weekend with no pre-release product, right?
And to be clear, we're not talking about a country. We're not talking about a region. Oh, no, girl. No one. No one has product.
Well, from far as I can tell, it's affecting shipments in North America. Maybe it did not elsewhere, but they certainly point that out. They're doing everything they can to, quote, try and expedite shipments to stores that may be affected. But despite their best efforts, there will be stores that receive their kits late and unable to make the 27th to 28th weekend. Now, here they go, and they say, well, we hope those stores affected will still receive their kits before November 2nd so they can hold pre-release events during pre-release week. Because, you know, all those players who showed up on Saturday and got pissed off are totally going to hang out on Wednesday night for your pre-release product.
Well, they also specify that they're not willing to bump the weekend back. Like, so they say that they hope that the stores have their product by a certain day. Why not just bump the pre-release back a week to that day, ensuring that more stores will have that? They won't even do that.
Nope.
So they're still holding the pre-release weekend, the original weekend, knowing that the majority of stores are not even going to have the product. We're not even done yet. It gets wilder.
Right. So, because look, if this was the only story, I'm not even sure we would even talked about it, right? Like, they should have shipped it when they did. They didn't, whatever. Okay, sure. It gets better. They say, P.S. I like how they do the P.S. That's my favorite. We know that this set is particularly crucial for the World Championship competitors, and the fact that some of you maybe end up missing out on the pre-release weekend while others do get a hold of the new set raised some concerns. Quote unquote, raised some concerns. Hashtag raised some concerns. Okay? While we normally wait until after release to post the full card set on our website, let's back that up one more time for the Magic players in the back. They do not show you the full card set until after the release date of the product. That literally means you're going to the pre-release and you have no idea what's in that set. And in many ways, that's a positive.
So not only are these people getting physical access to the cards before other people, ensuring they have a competitive advantage in literal card advantage, they're also getting actual knowledge of the set before actual people. Like, this is wild.
It's crazy. Because here's the thing. And this is what I've learned throughout the years of this game existing. It's been around for a couple years now. Is essentially that Square Enix continues to treat this card game very much like a video game. With video games, you can't let everybody see everything before a game comes out. Then everybody's going to be pissed off. They're not going to want to play it. You've already showed them everything. Card games are literally the opposite. Show me the set. Show me the mechanics. Talk about the cards. Show me the cool, sweet, hot, new mythic rares, whatever. Get me excited about it. Let's go play some games, right? That's what you want to do, is to build this crescendo of hype. And they literally don't. And they have, and they're wondering why when stuff like this happens, and their game has been slowly but surely declining in player base, at least on what I can see, is because mistakes like these and things where people have told them, you should do some preview spoilers, you should do a preview week, you should show the set before you can go to the pre-release so you have an idea of what's actually in it and how it may or may not play. So, Final Fantasy TCG, y'all.
Mess.
It's sometimes easy to forget that Magic the Gathering and Wizards of the Coast, a subsidiary of Hasbro, is always so on top of their game that it's so lucky that we have this stability in our game to just go down to your we know when the pre-release, well, we don't know when the next pre-release is, no tea, no shade. But, once they tell us when it is, that's when it'll be. We don't have these surprises.
They did actually finally tell us when Ravnica Allegiance was pre-releasing, and that's on the weekend of the 25th.
Okay.
Or no,
that's
I'm
what
sorry.
We thought.
No, the weekend of the 18th, which is it releases on the 25th, which is
What
we were thinking.
Thought. We had figured that it was going to be Martin Luther King weekend, just based on past Januaries, and they finally announced it.
But Wizards kept that under wraps.
Know that the guild kits are going to be in the store.
Yeah, and they also can't tell you which stores are affected. So somebody asked, is there going to be a list of stores affected? How will I know if my store is affected? Obviously, this affects weekend plans. And they're like, we're still working on this. The best way to find out would be to contact your local store on Friday, which is supposed to be the weekend you're supposed to be pre-releasing. And this just seems like a big mess. Like, oof.
Let's just say somebody screwed up incredibly big. This is some serious, someone may have lost their job over how bad this was screwed up, because this is seriously impacting a lot of people. And particularly those who like the game, because, there's all sorts of games that me and you and I, we never play, but may have their own dedicated, very fanatical base that want just the best for this card game, and stuff like this keeps happening. So, and we'll see what happens moving forward. It's a game that seems to be fledgling a little bit, and we'll see if it can kind of pull out of it.
It's one of the things that can really kill a game, and I hope that this doesn't do that to them.
Right. So let's take a look here at the recent events. Let's go ahead and thank all of our awesome people for
All right,
subscribing.
I'll start out with the cheerers. I'd like to thank Martin Casa. Thunder Voice, And T.S. Saliok, thank you for the cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Criley1 has subscribed. Thank you very much. MTG Effect gifted a sub to Dispersed Me 54, which was very nice.
Nice.
Rassilon D&D subscribed via Prime. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's see. Arcane Lore resubscribed for 4 months. You are awesome. Thank you so much. Tesla Prime subscribed via Prime. That's also really fantastic. And we had some followers this show, and we appreciate those as well.
Thanks, everybody.
So with that said, we're going to move here and turn the corner to the finisher. This weekend is TwitchCon, celebrating everyone's favorite way to consume live streamed video games, esports, and classic Doctor Who reruns. And we have many ways to bring our message to the people on a delay, from YouTube to iTunes to Facebook and Reddit, but doing it live is another animal entirely. We here at Magic Mike's love us some Twitch, and we couldn't imagine any other way to stream our show live to the masses, could we? Tell me, friends, if God forbid the walls came crashing down and Twitch disappeared tomorrow, on what platform should we broadcast our live shows in the future? Ruben?
Well, I love the chat interaction and live discussion that Twitch allows for, giving interesting tools for streamers to toy with to try to build their communities. But there is a better way to reach out and capture viewers and make sure that you never let their brains go. So after Twitch collapses, I'm looking forward to all of the improved interactions and even deeper discussions when we start doing Magic Mike's live with a brand new co-host named Alex Jones on Infowars.com.
Oh my God, Evan, you could totally be like Alex Jones for Halloween. That would be hilarious.
Wow. All right, guys. Well, it's been a good run here on Magic Mike's. We appreciate everyone who watched over the years. You guys are freaking-tastic. We'll see you guys later. It's been real. Check me out on the Twitter twats and the YouTubes. All right, Aaron.
Well, Twitch is a wonderful platform for folks to search for and find people to watch and enjoy. And there's nothing quite like interacting live. It reminds me of another platform I enjoy. So after the downfall of Twitch, I am super excited to bring Magic Mike's to my favorite way to interact with my fans, Tinder.
Go on, swipe right.
Swipe right.
Swipe right on our cast.
Block,
Yeah.
block.
Oh.
Yeah.
Bob Ross? Block. Block. No, thank you.
What do you play? Burn? Block. Do you play Coco? Block. Just, yeah.
Very nice, very nice. Oh, you like mountains? Oh, that's funny. Can't risk it. Can't risk it for a biscuit. Look, Twitch might be the premier live streaming platform right now, but the news tells me the zombie apocalypse can't be too far off. So in honor of Halloween, I can't wait to come to you live and dead with Magic Mike's on Lich.tv. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. I would sub to that so fast.
Lich.tv.
Lich, please. Woo. Move,
Yes.
Lich. Get out the way. Now, look.
Before we go, we just got 900 bits from Draco Lucian.
Oh, my goodness.
So thank you, Draco.
Thank
Much
you.
appreciated.
Good people,
Oh.
Draco. Thank you very much. And that said, that ends another live episode of Magic Mike's. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for all the bits, you guys. It was a wonderful night.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you. Have a good weekend, everybody. We'll be at events. Some of us will be at events. Evan doesn't leave his house. Aaron will be at Eternal Weekend.
Yep, I leave, so it's next week. I get there Thursday night, and then I will be there all weekend. I'll be in the Vintage main, the Legacy main. I might be doing some Team Constructed. I'll have Commander decks with me. So come say hello. It'd be really nice to meet you guys.
And I'm going to be at TwitchCon. And if you guys are free on Saturday at 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific, that's when we're doing the Broken Pact, live from the D&D Magic Wizards of the Coast booth at TwitchCon, where I'll be a guest and we'll be playing with our folks.
It's going to be sick. I'll be at home, so
Taking a nap.
feel
Sure.
free to tweet me. I may be like cooking something on the stove or something. I don't know.
Old man magic.
Play
sitting
some
in
of the
his house,
Switch. I don't know.
Warming up a can of beans over a fire.
right?
All right.
Someone knocks on his door and he opens it and it like dust comes off because he hasn't opened his door to the outside world in 30 years.
Oh, man.
Wow. Well, thank you, Ruben.
Thank you.
And we will move to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, my co-hosts, Aaron Campbell and Ruben Bressler, you guys for watching or listening, and hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at Magic Mics, our Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Talk to us privately at magicmicspodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at magicmicspodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.